There are various plan types to choose from when you are looking at healthcare plan options. Whether you are an employer looking at options to offer to your employees, or you're an individual and you're not sure which option is best for you, then please continue to listen to this episode where we go over the primary healthcare network. There are four key plan types: an HMO or Health Maintenance Organization, a PPO or Preferred Provider Organization, an EPO or Exclusive Provider Organization, and a POS or Point of Service Plan. And HMO has in-network coverage only with the exception of emergency services. Emergency services are going to be determined by your healthcare providers in the health plan, not as determined by you. You do have to have a primary care physician designated, and you are only allowed to see that one primary care physician who is then going to coordinate the rest of your care under the health plan. Referrals are needed in order to see a specialist. An HMO plan is ideal for those prioritizing lower premiums and in-network care. Individuals who value preventive care find a lot of value in HMO plans. The premiums are typically lower than other plans, and the care is limited, again, to in-network providers who have fewer provider options. However, these providers are going to be more focused on preventive care. PPO, Preferred Provider Organization plans. These plans have coverage for both in-network and out-of-network providers. You're going to pay the least when you see an in-network provider, and you don't need a referral for a specialist. Neither do you need to designate one physician as your primary care physician. You can see whatever physician you want within that network or outside of the network for your primary care. You're going to pay the least if you do see an in-network primary care provider, but you don't have to designate one specifically. A PPO plan is ideal for individuals needing provider flexibility because it has the most access to providers of any other plan type, and for people who frequently travel or relocate, because HMOs are limited to their network only. There's really not coverage or access if you're traveling unless there's some sort of emergency. PPOs do have higher premiums, and those premiums are typically attributed to that higher flexibility in plan options and type, and your care isn't managed by one specific provider. That broad access to care, including out-of-network provider options, does lead to higher out-of-pocket costs. EPO, Exclusive Provider Organizations, have only in-network coverage except for emergencies. Just like an HMO plan, you cannot see a provider outside of the network unless it's an emergency situation. You don't need a referral for a specialist in an exclusive provider organization, and you typically do not have to designate a single primary care physician. Those who are seeking lower premiums while also trying to avoid the requirements for a referral to see a specialist would find this plan an ideal option. The premiums the premiums do tend to be lower than that of PPOs, but they do also tend to be higher than the premiums for HMO options. Coverage is limited to in-network providers. As we said, there's less flexibility than a PPO, but you do get more flexibility with an exclusive provider organization than you do with a health maintenance organization. Also, because you don't have that designated primary care provider, these plans are not set up with such a large focus on preventive care as the HMA options are. Point of service plans have lower costs for in-network care. They do have out-of-network care options outside of just exclusively for emergency situations. So you can see an out-of-network provider regardless of whether it's an emergency. Of course, the same goes for a POS plan as a PPO plan, that you're going to pay the least when you see an in-network provider. Referrals tend to be required for specialists under a point of service plan, and it is also very common under a point of service plan to be required to designate one primary care physician to help manage and coordinate your care while you're enrolled in the plan. This plan is ideal for individuals who are valuing the cost savings of an HMO, but they do need occasional access to out-of-network care outside of emergency-only situations. Premiums typically are in the mid-range between the HMOs and PPOs, and that balanced access to providers, because you can see out-of-network providers, can be ideal for some individuals and the costs do tend to be lower than the costs of a PPO plan. Why choose one plan over another? Well, a myriad of reasons, and everyone's situation will be unique to them. There are factors to consider anytime you're looking to make a change in health plans. And the first that we are going to look at is flexibility. HMOs offer the least flexibility. They have a very narrow network. You cannot get care out of network without it being an emergency. And you do have to run all of your care through a specific designated primary care physician. These plans also tend to be the least expensive of any of the other plan types. The PPO plan has the most flexibility with the largest network of provider options, including options for out-of-network care. In a PPO plan, you do not have to designate a single primary care physician, and you do not have to have a referral to see a specialist. This plan has the most flexibility and also tends to have the highest cost. EPO plans tend to be a nice medium between HMO plans and PPO plans. They're kind of in the middle. They have moderate options, so they are limited to a network. You can't go out of network. However, you don't have to designate a primary care physician, and you typically do not need a referral to see a specialist. This plan has a moderate cost as compared to the other plan types. It's kind of middle of the road. A point of service plan is going to have a more limited network, but they also have out of network coverage. So it still has high flexibility. And you do have to designate a primary care physician within that network who will manage the care throughout your enrollment on the plan. And then with a point of service plan, you do typically have to have a referral to see a specialist. The costs are high compared to HMOs or EPOs. Also, when you're looking at considering what plan option, definitely you're going to want to look at the network. You will want to consider your dependents. Do you have children who are enrolled but don't live with you? Are they going to have access? Will they be able to see one of the in-network providers under the plans? Do you have a lot of prescriptions? You're going to want to know what pharmacies are covered in your network or whether you're limited to pharmacies. If you have a chronic condition or a condition in which you need to see a specialist on a regular basis, then you might want to choose a plan that doesn't require you to get a referral to see that specialist. Or maybe you're an individual who has multiple specialists and you don't want to have a referral to go see another specialist based on your unique needs. Or maybe because you have multiple conditions or you see multiple providers, it is advantageous to have one primary care physician who can really manage your care between all of the other providers. Costs are also a factor. HMOs tend to have the lowest costs, both for premiums and out-of-pocket costs. They have a higher emphasis on regular primary care. PPOs, again, they have the most flexibility. If that's what you need, if you travel a lot, family travels a lot, you have children covered under your plan that are under the age of 26 and they live out of state because they're off to college, you might want to choose a PPO plan so that you can ensure that they will have provider access where they are, or to ensure that you have access to a provider when you're on business travel. For an EPO plan, that's, again, very similar to an HMO. It's not a plan that you're going to want to choose if you travel, if you have dependents who don't live with you or dependents who live out of state. That's really not an option that is going to be best suited to your needs. A point of service plan can be a great option if you do still travel, but you're okay with having a limited network. So you can choose between fewer provider options. However, there are still provider options outside of that network if you're traveling, or if you have children that don't need much care or regular care, they're more likely to have some options under a POS plan than they would for an HMO or an EPO plan. And that option is going to typically save money. So if you really are stretched for finances and you need a plan that has as much flexibility as possible and as low of out-of-pocket costs as possible, then a POS option might be the best option for you. Again, everyone is unique and everyone is going to have a unique situation. If you are having a difficult time choosing the right plan, reach out to your human resources department, let them know. They should have a broker contact that you would be able to speak with to determine what plan is going to be best for you if your employer offers multiple plan options. If you're an employer and you're trying to determine what plan option you should offer to your employees, or if it would be advantageous to offer multiple plans, then I encourage you to speak with your broker, talk about the pros and cons of each plan. And it's going to be very important for you to look at the demographics of your employees. Where are your employees located? What are their age ranges? What are their salary ranges? And try to pick between options that are going to suit the needs for the most of your workforce. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close. I hope that you learned something new about the different plan options. If there's something that you are curious about regarding plan options and I did not cover it in this video, please go ahead and leave me a comment. I would like to take that into consideration for a future video. Thank you and have a great day.